r/AskReddit by Redditors. Redditors who grew up with shady/criminal parents. What did your mom or dad teach you was okay to do that you later learned was illegal or seriously frowned upon? Serious. I mean, I knew it was illegal, but probably growing all the cannabis when I was a kid. Dad was gonna die of cancer, so he wanted to leave us some money. It was like Diet Breaking Bad. I'm sorry, but that last sentence cracked me up. Sorry about your dad. Diet Breaking Bad is pretty funny though. So did he leave you with some money, or did he blow it all at the vacuum repairman's place? I had a friend whose parents grew and sold quite a bit of weed. They explained to the kids that they were farmers, just like the people who grow wheat and potatoes. Nothing more, nothing less. If we were at home and they yelled pigs, we were to hide behind the couch and be silent. If we were in the car and they yelled pigs, we had to crawl into the floorboard and not move a muscle. I was kidnapped in grade 3 by my dad's supplier. He held us for 2 days. We had no idea. My sister and I met him before, lots of times. When he showed up at school and said our parents were on vacation and to go with him, we did. They had soda and Oreos and a puppy and a Sega Genesis, and it was the best weekend of my life. Found out 20 years later, when my mom was complaining about never having had a vacation in her life. I reminded her of that vacation, and she said, "You idiot, you were kidnapped." Oh, cool. Wow. At least the kidnapping drug dealers were nice to you. I honestly have a strange respect for the man who went, "Well, I gotta kidnap these kids for business reasons, but that's no reason not to be the coolest fucking kidnapper ever instead of a doucher bag." My mom and dad are trained artists and teachers, and they would frequently counterfeit things like parking permits, coupons, doctor's notes, etc. It was wild. My teacher stepdad made me a counterfeit student ID so I could keep getting student bus fares after I graduated LMAO. My sister used her marketing and her cut and paste skills to produce a college diploma for her then husband in the 1980s. The artists at my college newspaper made some fake parking tickets to put on their own car so that they didn't get any real tickets. Part of me admires the creativity that goes into this. Another part sees it as a slippery slope. My mom was a drug dealer. There are so many things I could list, but I'm on my phone, so just a few things off the top of my head. Smoking pot. When I was about 4, I chased my mom through the Woolworth's drugstore screaming, "Mommy, mommy, you dropped your joint. Don't you want your joint?" She hurried faster, shushing me, and I got a big talking to that afternoon. Snorting coke. I was in the 2nd grade when I got sent to the principal's office for teaching my friends how to make limes with salt and use part of a milk straw to snort it. My mom was really pissed. Don't talk to cops or any straight people. I didn't know why at first, but I lived in terror of straight people. I got congratulations for making it through FBI questioning when I was probably 6 years old when they raided our land. SWAT teams are scary. Boobs are good for smuggling. Cleaning out stems and seeds is a fun summer job. Don't say anyone's name on the phone. Those are just a few things I immediately recall. Ooh, I forgot to add how every now and then people in our circle of friends would move far away for a while and change names, and we weren't ever allowed to call them by their old names. My mom also made us believe that morphine was an excellent pain reliever for all ages. I mean, morphine does work as an excellent pain reliever. "Mommy, mommy, you dropped your joint." That part cracked me up. My dad was investigated by the FBI for racketeering, but they were unable to press charges on him. He was also sued by a major financial entity for racketeering as well. Anyways, when I was a teenager, my dad had a lawsuit brought against him by multiple employees for unpaid overtime, and he ordered me to go through the boxes upstairs in a warehouse that we had to find all of their time cards. The storage area was a disaster. Papers everywhere. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find them. So I told my dad that it was no use. The time cards weren't there. My dad then yelled at me, telling me that he needed those time cards, and said that all of these people were trying to rip him off, so if I had to just make up time cards for them so that they were working 40 hours a week with no overtime. But don't bother telling him about what I did to get the time cards when I had them. I just had to have them for him one way or the other. I didn't think much about the last bit until much later, but, long story short, I ended up making time cards that he used for the case. He won. Realized several years later that my dad had used me for forgery, and when I confronted him about it, he just laughed and said that I was a minor at the time and nobody puts a minor in jail for a white collar crime. I've run into some of those employees since then, and when they accosted me for being his daughter and how they would want to punch my dad, or worse, if it was him they ran into, I've always confessed this to them. Ironically enough, they have all said that they would punch him on my behalf too, because the fact that he used his own daughter pissed them off even more. And about the racketeering thing, he loved laughing about that and calling himself a don. When I was going to take over the business several years later after the forgery bit, his oldest employees gave me loyalty oaths. I ran like hell. My dad absolutely was a racketeer. My dad taught my brother and I how to steal, so we don't get into trouble if we ever decide to try it. Christmas time around age 15, I helped my dad obtain a ton, like 10 or 15, shark vacuums, back when they were the big thing vacuum wise, and after he sold them, he gave me $350 for Christmas and one of the PlayStation 3s that he snatched. While I helped him, I never knew just how much bad shit he was doing. After I turned 18 he told me that he ended up getting fired from his favorite legal job for stealing $5,000 plus worth of fireworks, traded them to his weed dealer, and then sold the weed. He also told me that just during the Black Friday weekend, he would move enough products to survive comfortably for the rest of the year and only kept a job to keep suspicious eyes off of him. I try not to use what he's taught me very often, but at times it's seriously come in handy. I normally just pocket little shit that I need for my random hobbies now. My dad stole a few things in a sneaky way, so my brother and I would have won each. In one instance, for example, he bought a Gamma Boy game. He brought it back to the car, removed the cartridge, and took it back into the store saying the case was empty. He did the same thing with those Pikachu Tamagotchi things. I think his biggest steal was a PlayStation 2. He actually did purchase one. My mum went in and picked it up, but when leaving the store, the door person didn't tear the receipt. So, my dad took the receipt back in, picked up another PS2, stuck the receipt on it and walked out. The door person tore the receipt this time, but obviously didn't pay attention to the time of sale. Dad also ran a huge backquote business of installing chips in PlayStations so they could play copied games. He would rent games, burn a copy, then sell copies to other people. We had a whole library and catalog of copied games and Dad had quite a few customers. Looking back I see how dodgy it was and why he told me not to tell too many people about it. My parents would often get me to answer the phone as a young kid, like 4 to 5 and older. Anyways, they people on the phone always asked if Jones Mollusk was there. My parents would coach me, no, Jones Mollusk lives here. You don't know who that is. Well, as a kid I really didn't have a clue who Jones Mollusk was, because Dad was always just Dad, or went by his nickname. Didn't find out for years what my dad's real name was. I guess I helped my parents evade a few debt collectors and God knows what else. Also, me and my sister used to go play Barbies in Dad's clubhouse. It was our favorite place. Dad built it himself in our backyard and they even had a big bar and a pool table, and they brought a velvet couch for me and my sister to play on while Dad played pool and visited with all my uncles. Dad always called it his clubhouse too, so when people asked where my dad was I'd say Dad was probably in his clubhouse. To which my mom would always get so mad at me and I'd be so confused because that's what Dad and everyone else called it, but I wasn't supposed to talk about it apparently, haha. Yeah, my dad was in a biker gang. Edit, adding more stories that I've mentioned in response to some of the below comments, since people seem to get a kick out of them. My dad, when he took us places like the aquarium or amusement parks, used to always try and get us in cheaper. Well, one thing about me was that I was always a really oblivious child. This both helped and hurt him, such as the phone calls. I mean, I legitimately didn't know who Jones Mollusk was for years, guys, but in this case it backfired. So once my dad was trying to get us into a park or something, and he lied about my age to get me in cheaper. Insulted, immediately puffed up and said, "Dad, I'm not 6, I'm 7. cue the brow raise of the attendant and my dad puffing back, "You're ducking 6. Good times." I can't remember if we got in cheaper or not. Probably not, haha. He was so mad. After he told me, if I say a 6 you're ducking 6, I roll. Dads are weird, I thought. My dad hated cops growing up. He used to call them ducking pigs. He'd always made snide remarks about cops just eating donuts and being generally useless. He'd get stopped out by them. Just general harassment. I guess everyone knew him and his general associates. Anyways, one day we stop at a Wendy's/Tim Hortons split restaurant. Now, if you don't know, sometimes restaurants share a building together, and in this case we were only separated by a short wall to the other side of Tim's. Well, we're waiting for our burger and me being like 425 whatever, I'm up on my knees looking over the partition. Well, there on the other side are a table full of cops. I remember feeling shocked and suddenly exclaiming, very loudly, "Dad, you're right, all them pigs do is eat donuts." My mother was mortified and she pulled me down to sit. The cops all looked over, I guess, and started laughing. Luckily, my dad thought it was hilarious. Thanks for watching. Leave a like to show you enjoyed it. Comment with your own stories. Subscribe to the channel for more great content.